So many of us do have access to finances, talk about loans, but does that really make it necessary for you to take a loan or to even borrow? Today we're going to be talking about borrowing to earn or for consumption. And we'll be talking to Madam Margaret Namazi. She'll be telling us her experience with borrowing because she was just having access to finances. Let's look at her experience. We'll be right back.
My name is Margaret Namazi. I'm a banker. As a banker, I like borrowing and I always encourage people to borrow. But one thing that I've learned, when you're borrowing, you must be very careful on how you borrow and for what purpose. Using my own experience, I used to borrow for consumables just because the bank would give us access to loans. So I need chairs, I go and get a loan. I need this, I go and get a loan. Because I was exposed to debts, of course the bank would lend us money. So one time I decided to get a car loan. And yes, I bought the car. But after a few months, I realized I couldn't cope up with all the different expenses it came with, the car washing, where to keep it, and so many other things, the repairs. I realized that, and all the other associated costs. So I sat back and started reflecting, was this a right decision that I made? I used my previous knowledge on financial literacy, and I realized I think I had gone somewhere wrong. I decided to sell off the car and clear the loan. And from that time, I purposed, before I take a loan, I have to really sit and ask myself, how is this loan going to add an income to my balance sheet? Am I getting any money out of this loan? By the time I finish paying off this loan, will I have added value to myself? If I find that the loan is not going to do that, I don't take it. And for sure, all the loans that I've accessed, I'm grateful that the bank gives me the opportunity to get loans. They have been very beneficial in my life. I would encourage people that before you take a loan, always reflect, ask yourself, why am I taking this loan? Is it productive? Is it going to be a liability to yourself? Thank you so much.
Tilda, I do believe all of us have the capacity to be able to access money, to access a loan, talk about getting money from friends. You have a friend that you can easily call and say, I want this kind of, this much of money, and they will send it to you. Does that make it necessary for you to really keep borrowing here and there?
Yeah, you see, with Margaret's experience, I like the fact that, one, she's a banker, and she's sharing a situation that can happen to any one of us. I mean, if it can happen to a banker, how about someone out there that may not even have the least knowledge about managing their money in situations such as this, where they need to get a loan? So I like the fact that she brings out the genesis of all this. This is someone who was into the discipline of borrowing. You're borrowing with a purpose. You're using this borrowed money to either invest in your business, grow your business, and basically improve your life. And then one fine day, she borrowed for consumption. She got a loan to buy a car. So many of us get these loans. So many of us depend on borrowed money to get at least a car that can move you efficiently from one place to another, for you to run your errands and your different business requirements. But now, this went wrong simply because it was a consumption loan that was not earning her any more money. Remember, there is someone out there who can borrow to start an Uber.
Oh, yeah.
As in to sign up for Uber, and this car is bringing in money. So it's a win-win. It brings in money, but it's also picking children from school. When you're leaving work, it's also picking you. So it's kind of making sense for you to have that car.
Oh, yeah.
And then there are some of us who are getting this car just to go to work. You park it there. The whole day it's not doing anything, and then you go back home. But these ends your bankers are calling.
Sure.
Installment, pay. So are we borrowing for scenarios that can earn us more money? Are we borrowing where we know that much as it's a consumption good, we can ably sustain it with our current income? These are things we need to think about even before we go in to get that loan.
We really need to understand the genesis of loans. One, she reached a point and shared with us that my balance sheet, instead of growing, was going down because one, a car depreciates in terms of value. There are other expenses on the car. There's fuel, there's maintenance, there's insurance, a lot. So we get consumption loans, we should put in our consideration the amount should be low so that the installments do not overstrain us, or the installments do not affect our growth as human beings. Because like you buy a land, many people youth now say, if it rains, sit on your land and I will sit in my car, you feel the rain. But as you buy the land, even if you're not putting a house now, but the value of the land is shooting up. So you as a human being, your value is also going up. The land you bought at 5 million, after 1 year it's 5.5. However much you're paying the interest, whether big or small, but the value as a person has what? It has increased. If you are constructing, you're putting rentals or accommodation, you are cutting on the cost. What you've been spending on the rent, you are now paying it in the loan installment, but you already have the property. So those are the calculations we need to know. The cost of a loan is very much important. Because as a banker, we are exposed to money all the time. You can get a loan from the bank at a low rate at any time without many conditions. But what you should put in considerations are the costs involved. At the end of the day, if I'm going to get 2 million to put in my shop, after 2 million, will my working capital has increased? So the costs involved, how much will I pay for photos, for transport, for rent, for installment, for interest rate? Those are very much important, whether you're getting a consumption loan or a development loan altogether. So those are the things Margaret underlooked because she had access to money at exposure. She was a banker, the bank was willing to give her money all the time. But buying a car is okay, but so long as the installment fits in very well with your cash flow. If you're earning 10 million or whichever money you're earning, and you say the smallest part of the portion is the one going to the car, it makes sense.
So borrowing can be on both sides of the darkness and the light. So it's about you to pick which path you're going to take. Look at most of the businessmen we can have around. They have been able to grow because of taking up loans that are going to help them to grow.
You know, Ivan, why? Because loans help you to give big sums of money at once that you can not get from a friend or relative. The bank will go there and give you 100 million. You can spend 100 million in 1 month, but you can never get that money at once. So that's what the bank helps us to do. But without forgetting the other things you're talking about, for sure.
So as you're there thinking about borrowing or a loan and it's kind of a nightmare, another person is looking at an opportunity in that kind of borrowing.
Yeah, but at the end of it all, now if we go back a bit into Margaret's scenario, it's also reminding us to know when and where to say no.
Oh yeah.
Yes, you can access the money, yes, you can get the loan, but when you evaluate your finances and you feel like, paying this installment will strain me and I'll not be able to live a quality kind of life that I would have wanted to live, say no. And you know, bankers are so convincing. This is business. And I really like them because they really go all out and give us these opportunities. But if you know that you cannot sustain the installment, the repayments, save yourself, save the bankers the trouble of looking for you, and wait. Wait until you can be able to sustain this.
And on top of knowing when to say no, I love and appreciate that Margaret realized that, by the way, Fachi, like the youth there now, Fachi, why don't I sell this
Back the car and pay the loan?
Pay the loan,
Oh, yeah.
come back to my really normal life, try to save or earn or do whatever I do in a much better way.
Yeah. So all in all, we need to be a little bit wiser before we borrow any money and think about it. Am I borrowing to earn more money or am I borrowing for consumption? If it is consumption specifically, am I able to sustain that kind of arrangement? So let's carry on with this discussion. Follow our social media handles, share your experience, let us learn from each other, and let's see how we can be a little bit wiser next time. Let's be money wiser.